Welcome to our continuing series, Questions and Answers from the works of Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Transformation, Part 4. From Sri Aurobindo. The fundamental realizations of this yuga are: 1. The psychic change, so that a complete devotion can be the main motive of the heart and the ruler of thought, life, and action in constant union with the Mother and in her presence. 2. The descent of the peace, power, light, etc., of the higher consciousness through the head and heart into the whole being, occupying the very cells of the body. 3. The perception of the One and Divine infinitely everywhere, the Mother everywhere, and living in that infinite consciousness. The psychic being stands behind the heart, supporting the mind, life, and body. In the psychic transformation, there are three main elements. 1. The opening of the occult inner mind, inner vital, inner physical, so that one becomes aware of all that lies behind the surface mind, life, and body. 2. The opening of the psychic being, or soul, by which it comes forward and governs the mind, life, and body, turning all to the divine. 3. The opening of the whole lower being to the spiritual truth. This last may be called the psycho-spiritual part of the change. It is quite possible for the psychic transformation to take one beyond the individual into the cosmic. Even the occult opening establishes a connection with the cosmic mind, cosmic vital, cosmic physical. The psychic realizes the contact with all existence, the oneness of the self, the universal love, and other realizations which lead to the cosmic consciousness. But all that is a result of the opening to the spiritual above, and it comes by an infiltration or reflection of the spiritual light and truth in mind, life, and body. The spiritual transformation proper begins or becomes possible when one rises above the mind and lives there, governing all from above. Even in the psychic transformation, one can rise above by a sort of going above of the mental, vital, physical being, and a return. But one does not yet live above in the summit consciousness, where overmind has its seat with the other planes that are above the human mind. The supramental transformation can only come when the lead between the lower and higher hemispheres, or halves of existence, is removed, and the supermind, instead of the overmind, becomes the governing power of the existence. But of that, nothing can be spoken now. The two feelings are both of them right. They indicate the two necessities of the sadhana. One is to go inward and open fully the connection between the psychic being and the outer nature. The other is to open upward to the divine peace, force, light, Ananda above, to rise up into it and bring it down into the nature and the body. Neither of these two movements, the psychic and the spiritual, is complete without the other. If the spiritual ascent and descent are not made, the spiritual transformation of the nature cannot happen. If the full psychic opening and connection is not made, the transformation cannot be complete. The psychic is the first of two transformations necessary. If you have the psychic transformation, it facilitates immensely the other. That is, the transformation of the ordinary human into the higher spiritual consciousness. Otherwise, one is likely to have either a slow and dull or exciting but perilous journey. I have never said anything about a transformation of the psychic. I have always written about a psychic transformation of the nature, which is a very different matter. I have sometimes written of it as a psychicization of the nature. The psychic is in the evolution, part of the human being, its divine part. So, a psychicization will not carry one beyond the present evolution, but will make the being ready to respond to all that comes from the divine or higher nature, and unwilling to respond to the asura, rakshasa, pishacha, or animal in the being, or to any resistance of the lower nature which stands in the way of the divine change. It is the psychic being in you that has come forward. When the psychic being comes forward, all is happiness, the right attitude, the right vision of things. Of course, in one sense, it is the same I that puts forward different parts of itself. But when these different parts are all under the control of the psychic and turned by it towards the reception of the higher consciousness, then there begins the harmonization of all the parts and their progressive recasting into modes of the higher consciousness, growing in peace, light, force, love, knowledge, Ananda, which is what we call the transformation. It was certainly an experience of great value, a psychic experience par excellence, a feeling of velvety softness within, an ineffable plasticity within, is a psychic experience and can be nothing else. It means a modification of the substance of the consciousness, especially in the vital emotional part, and such a modification prolonged or repeated till it became permanent would mean a great step in what I call the psychic transformation of the being. It is just these modifications in the inner substance that make transformation possible. It is the Agni fire that you feel. Agni is at once a fire of aspiration, a fire of purification, a fire of tapasya, a fire of transformation. All that is simply the burning of the Agni in various parts of the being. It prepares it for transformation. But the coming forward of the psychic is another matter, and its signs are psychological. The sadhana is based on the fact that a descent of forces from the higher planes and an ascent of the lower consciousness to the higher planes is the means of transformation of the lower nature, although naturally it takes time, and the complete transformation can only come by the supramental descent. Transformation means that the higher consciousness or nature is brought down into the mind, vital, and body, and takes the place of the lower. There is a higher consciousness of the true self, which is spiritual, but it is above. If one rises above into it, then one is free as long as one remains there. But if one comes down into or uses mind, vital, or body, and if one keeps any connection with life, one has to do so, either to come down and act from the ordinary consciousness, or else to be in the self, but use mind, life, and body. Then the imperfections of these instruments have to be faced and mended. They can only be mended by transformation.